Hey guys, Stealth here. Welcome to the world of Warships. In this replay, we have the USS Atlanta here. I'm using the Atlanta to usually hunt down destroyers and to make a buck while I'm at it, because this is a premium ship, and of course this thing makes more credits than your usual ship. Now, the Atlanta is a pretty supersized destroyer. That's usually the way I look at it. It may look like a cruiser, but you really don't have any armor. The amount of hit points that you have compared to other ships is really not that good. And the range on the guns is decent, but for me it's only 13 kilometers, and that's even because I have the destroyer captain that I usually use on this ship. Anyway, since this ship is usually used to hunt down destroyers, I was a bit upset that there weren't any destroyers in this game. As you can see, the enemy team has a lot of ships, and most of them are cruisers. We even have 2 Atlantas on the enemy team, a York, a couple of Clevelands, Aoba, Molotovs, which is one of the new premium ships, and the Kirov. Of course, a couple of battleships and 1 Hiryu-class aircraft carrier. Now, the only destroyer that we have is on our team. It's a Kamikaze R. Other than that, we too have a whole lineup of cruisers, a couple of battleships, and of course another carrier. So as someone accurately noted in chat, this is World of Cruisers. And I gotta say, I usually don't encounter games like these, where you just have nothing but cruisers. Anyway, since this is a domination map, we have to capture these areas, and since the Atlanta is pretty fast, I decided to first capture this area. And of course that's usually what the enemy team does, but in reverse. Now, with a couple of overflying aircraft here, you can see that the air group from Hiryu is already doing a lot of damage, but there's more incoming. And for some reason the enemy air carrier captain was flying right over my ship, and the Atlanta is pretty damn good at shooting down enemy aircraft. You can see these things are going down one by one, and that's of course because I also popped my defensive AA fire, which means that these aircraft are going to go down even faster than usual. They even decide to send in fighters, but not only to me, but they're also flying over this York over here, so I was really quite surprised that they just kept coming this close. Anyway, my strategy for this match is usually to hang out over on the A sector here, because there's quite a bit of cover I can use, and considering the, let's say the lack of armor for the Atlanta, I usually just duck in and out of cover to keep myself safe and not get blown up in the first couple of minutes. Now it seems that the enemy is also coming this way. We have a destroyer there, a New Mexico, we have another Auba up ahead. Of course the Molotov's there, and we have the Kirov. So quite a few ships to shoot at, and right now I can shoot over this little land, what do you call them? This piece of island here. Unfortunately I just missed the battleship. Getting ready to fire salvo after salvo with a 5-second reload. The ship just keeps on peppering. Round after round goes in, but I'm doing a rather uneventful amount of damage. I really would have wanted to do more damage. Next target is the Molotov. You can see again, shell after shell, volley after volley going in. And this ship seems to be pretty fast. I haven't actually used it myself, but it seems to be one of the faster ships out there. Now I'm firing armor penetration at this ship, because at this angle my shells are almost going to come down vertically, which means that I might be able to score a couple of hits directly through the deck as my shells are going to come in vertical. I'm going to take quite a lot of damage there from the Fuso. I thought I was a pretty interesting snack, and gotta say I can't blame it. Armor penetration unfortunately does not go through the deck of the Fuso, and it's time to get the hell out of here, as I'm also using a lot of AA fire to shoot down whatever is flying overhead. That's when a Cleveland and a Kirov pop in, so the next target is going to be the Cleveland. I'm still firing armor penetration. At this range you can usually get a decent amount of damage with armor penetration, but most of my shells are just not good. Pretty poor firing on my part. Now since I've taken quite a bit of damage, I'm retreating behind the island here, trying to keep my ship safe. I'm especially with the other cruisers along here, we could possibly focus fire on one of these ships, blow them out of the water. At least that's the plan. Our destroyer has already... Correction, our destroyer is still alive. Our destroyer, I believe, will die pretty soon, but he's all the way on the other side of the map over in Delta. Now with the high shell arc for the Atlanta, I can usually pop her right over this island, but I had to keep my fire, or I had to check my fire, because there was another ship in the way, this Bajani. I did not want to fire a couple of rounds into the superstructure. That, let's say, would be just bad manners. Salvo after salvo. Unfortunately, the Auba was maneuvering quite a lot, and I'm just not the best of cruiser captains. Meaning that most of my rounds are not really going to do that much. Couple more rounds going in. Again, only a few hits, but they didn't really do anything. Armor penetration. Coming around yet again. And as I'm looking around, I see that the other side of the map is not really doing too well. We have 2 battleships there, 1 cruiser. And it seems that the Hiryu, the enemy Hiryu that is very happy about that. Because he can pretty much go at his leisure after these battleships. And as long as these things keep taking torpedo fire, they're not going to last for very long. So, time to head over to the other side. Because over here, we have not so much an advantage. Well, whereas the other side, we have the New Mexico, and I believe that the New York is also over on that side, but it's just outside of my range, so I can't quite see it. So, full speed ahead, making way to the other side of the map, as, by the way, this ship seems to have run aground here. Come on. I really still hate the replay system, because it is just not very good. Moreover, there's not actually a replay system implemented yet in World of Warships. You still have to go through a semi-hack in an ini file to get this thing to record replays in the first place. And, of course, when I'm done with the recording, the whole game just crashes because it doesn't know how to quit back into the port. Not ideal. Anyway, moving over to the other side where we can already see a Cleveland and a New York. New York is doing very high on hit points. The Cleveland, not so much. He's down to a 3rd. But due to the high mountain here that I cannot fire over this ridge. So I'm going to have to go around. You can see me just slightly heading towards the channel here. I decided not to go through because my presence was much more needed here with my AA fire. So trying to make my way around the headlam here. Trying to get ready to pepper the Cleveland insofar as there's anything left by the time I get there. Because this Cleveland seems to be heavily engaged with the Congo over there. Oh, correction, it's a Congo, it's not New York, it's the Congo. And of course, the enemy carrier just keeps sending in aircraft after aircraft. Flight after flight of torpedo bombers keeps coming in. And the Congo is no longer covered by the Nuremberg, which has to retreat after probably taking quite a bit of fire. And I wouldn't be surprised if it already popped its defensive AA fire and it's now on cooldown. So it's really not going to be terribly useful. Now the Cleveland is backing away, and I'm still too close to the island here to actually be useful. Unfortunately, the ship only maneuvers at, let's say, 29 to 30, sorry, not kph, but knots, 31 knots currently. And right now I have a good shot, but of course that's the moment when the guy goes down. And this is when I noticed the ass of the Hiryu sticking out. I'm not sure why, but he seems to be reversing out of here. And he just reverses pretty much straight into my line of fire. I don't think he was expecting my Atlanta to pop up here. It is not unwelcome. He just takes massive amounts of damage as volley after volley goes in. Of course, he immediately realizes that he's getting shot at, kills the throttle, puts it in full ahead flank, and tries to back into the cover of the island, at which point I can no longer hit him. Now, the New York also seems to have retreated, and currently I cannot shoot at either of these ships. What I can do is capture the Delta zone, and this will allow our team to slowly start gaining points, and we definitely need those because we are far behind on points. Now I decide to Sorry, I decide to close in on these ships as I'm capturing the area. And if at all possible, I want to use my defensive AA fire to go after these aircraft. But currently they're slightly too far away. And of course, returning aircraft are not really a priority target. So I decide not to use the defensive AA fire. The Congo here is still taking a lot of fire from the Hiryu's aircraft. You can see dive bombers going in. And even with the friendly fighters overhead, sometimes you can still see enemy bombers making a run for it and getting a hit. Now the Hiryu is still slightly behind the island, as well as is the New York. I'm not sure if the New York is maneuvering there to lay an ambush for me. I think that is what he might be doing, considering that our Congo just died, and the only other ship here is in Nuremberg. So this is gonna get tense, because I want to get in here, I want to kill the carrier and the battleship, and preferably before I take too much damage, because a full broadside from this battleship can really finish me off. Now you saw me switch to torpedoes there, and that was mostly to just analyze which way the ship was heading. I want to know where that battleship's going, because I know I am presenting my broadside, and moreover, I have to present my broadside, because my torpedoes are pretty much the only thing that's going to save me against this battleship. You can see he does a lot of damage. Torpedoes are going to strike full onto the broadside of the battleship. New York is down to 4,000 hit points, 750. Target down. Thank you, torpedoes. That really saved me. Now, I'm not too worried about all of these aircraft, because I know that most of them are retreating. Except for one flight of dive bombers, which put my ship on fire. So immediately put out the fire. Together with the Nuremberg, we finish off this Hiryu. Which was not a moment too soon, because we really need the points. Delta zone is the only one we have. The other zones have been captured by the enemy team, or are being captured or contested. So we are really not getting a lot of points. So, swing the ship around, trying to head over to the Bravo zone over here in the north. It's going to be a while, but I just cannot win this fight if I don't have more zones. What we did manage to do is turn it into a 4 versus 4. Well, the enemy team still has a Molotov, a Cleveland, an Atlanta, and a New Mexico. We have the advantage of having an aircraft carrier, and hopefully the Hiryu will be able to do a bit more damage, if he isn't out of aircraft yet. First up, just trying to get over to this zone as quickly as possible. And I know pretty much where all the ships are. I know that there is a battleship and a cruiser there, another cruiser there. The only one I hadn't spotted yet, and there it is the last cruiser. So, in a way, I am massively out of position here, especially considering that the enemy team just took down another one of our ships. It's now a 3v4. And considering we are almost 400 points behind the enemy, correction, 300 points behind the enemy team, we got work to do, and fast.
The enemy is about to win.
But there really isn't that much that I could do from this position, so I was rather worried about getting this game. I did not expect to get this thing done. And that may be a bit of foreboding for the rest of the match. Anyway, our Nuremberg here, the guy who helped me finish off the aircraft carrier and the Congo, the New York, is heading back to the cap, trying to contest that Atlanta over there, and he just got a massive hit in. Or actually, that probably was the torpedo bombers that you just see over there. That Hiryu is awful close to the Atlanta though, so I would not be surprised if our Hiryu is taking a lot of fire. And all the while, I cannot do anything but just keep sailing for B. The moment that I neutralize B, at least we buy ourselves a little bit more time, because the enemy team will not be gaining points as fast. Now, Gurkha 101 destroyed Delton of FL. That is the Atlanta, so it's now the 3v3, and killing that cruiser bought us a bit of time, but still not a lot. Our cruiser is at 14,000 hit points versus a 13,000 hit point Molotov cruiser, and of course he's not alone. There is another cruiser somewhere nearby, and a battleship. You can see the second cruiser popping up. It's very low health. It's the Cleveland. That means that the New York... Is it New York? No, sorry, the New Mexico is probably pretty close nearby. There it is. Again, low hit points, 5707. So a good torpedo bomber or dive bomber strike could finish it off, but not with a Cleveland right next to it, as the Cleveland has some really, really impressive AA fire. So, captured Bravo. That's the second zone that I've captured, or I suppose you should say technically the third, because I was also involved in capturing C. Anyways, I'm trying to make my way around to Alpha, over there, to capture yet another zone, get more of these zones out of enemy control, so that we don't bleed as many points as we do at the moment. Because even if no more ships would get killed, we would still not be winning. Now the Hiryu seems to have made it out alive. Our Nuremberg is not so fortunate. It's down to 2300 hit points, and one or two good salvos from the Cleveland or the Molotov could finish it off. And I know it's just one salvo at 1500 hit points, but you don't always get full hits. 882, and so much for the Nuremberg. So now we have 560 points. The enemy team has well over 900 points. At this point I thought, well, screw it. I'm just going to capture this zone. Just going to try and get a little bit more XP for this match. We'll just call it a day. Because, come on, how likely are they not to win? And how likely am I to be able to actually do anything about that? What I can do here is capture A, and as I'm capturing A, keep the closest route possible to the island. So stay as close as possible to get this turn as short as possible. And link up with the carrier over towards the southeast, over towards J9. On the way I might be able to get a couple of shots in, but for now I'm very happy just to be capturing A, because that means that my team is going to start getting 9 points every few seconds and the enemy team only 3. But the enemy team is still hot on the heels of my carrier, which is a big issue. Now this is when I spot the Cleveland. I hadn't expected him to just be lingering around here. So here we go. Salvos are going in, shell after shell, but at this range, with a flight time of about 12 seconds, it is not particularly easy to hit a maneuvering ship like that. As I was busy firing at this Cleveland, I had overlooked one ship. That one. The New Mexico is fully aware of my presence, and here comes a full broadside of HE rounds. And that really hurt. I just lost 9,000 hit points. Down to 3,200 as I start putting rounds into the New York. Because right now I don't really have a good shot at the Cleveland, only my forward batteries. So instead I go for HE full fire on the New Mexico, trying to get as many rounds as possible into this New Mexico and sink him. Because sinking this ship will allow us to get a few more points, and it will cost the enemy points. There we go. Now the scores are getting pulled back quite a bit. 800 versus 878. So if I can manage to kill this cruiser, we have won. Especially considering that the enemy our aircraft carrier just killed off that cruiser, that Molotov. And it seems that the battleship that I just killed, which one? Yeah, the Mexico, is a bit pissed off at my skills here, or at my barrier of fire coming in. A barrage of fire, and of course, there goes the Cleveland. Or at least, that was what I thought, because there we go. Now, I gotta say, I was not expecting this result. I got 595,000 credits for this victory. 4,638 XP and 232 free XP. I did not complete any special mission. I didn't really do that much damage, but somehow I got 595,000 for it. What I did really enjoy about it is that it was such a close match. But the game apparently thought different, as it gave me, as you can see, a lot more experience than the second player on my team. Which, again, I don't think is entirely just, considering that I feel that I didn't do too much damage. But apparently the game thought different. And here's the detailed report. You can see I did quite a bit of damage with my torpedoes, 31,000. About 33,000 damage with AP and HE combined. And let's just face it, that's not really that much. Fire set 2100, and I caused a little bit of flooding when I torpedoed that battleship, but apparently he was very quick to repair, and the flooding didn't actually catch on. Still, let's just look at that. 550, English is hard. 595,702 credits. So I gotta say, the Atlanta made good money for me that game. Hope you enjoyed watching it. For me, it was very, very tense to play, especially considering I had a phone call right in the middle of the match, which took my concentration away for a little bit. But it fortunately didn't last too long and I was able to catch up quickly. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts are on the match, and I'll see you soon for the next video.